From around the world, we come together. Technology has evolved, and so have we. But our purpose remains the same: to explore the next frontier of APIs, to spark new ideas and stoke the flames of innovation, and to build today the things that will shape the world of tomorrow. Step into the future of APIs. Welcome to API Summit 2023 by Kong.
Welcome, everyone. This summer, I went to visit my aging parents with my family and my kids in Italy. And as I was chasing them around, look what I found. I found an old box with old pictures, old memories, and also one of these. Remember these? An analog camera, carrying a film, developing that film, the clicking noise. And then one day, the world moved to digital, and we never looked back. Although I know that there is some of you that are very hard to transition still. The world moved to digital cameras because fundamentally, they're easier to use with less complexity. We went from doing a lot of work, carrying large equipment, developing the film, buying the film, to pretty much doing no work. Portable, one click, always with you, unlimited photos all the time. And this is really the underlying theme of pretty much every technology transition. When we look at technology transitions in the world, the underlying theme is reducing complexity, doing more with less. And I'm sure you can name 100 more transitions when this has happened, but there is one of them that we are particularly interested in, and that is the transition from the old software world to the new API world. How lucky we are to be in this singularity of humanity when the world is transitioning from the old monolithic way of building software to the new API world interconnected with each other. These type of transitions, they only happen once in humanity and then never again, like going from analog to digital cameras. And this is the time where the world is shifting to an API world. This time, we are not just the ones witnessing this transition. It's more exciting than that. We are the ones building it. Reducing complexity is also the theme of this technology transition, like pretty much every transition. Use cases like AI, edge computing, mobile, they were made possible thanks to APIs. Could you imagine the amount of complexity it would take to support these use cases, if even it's possible, with the old software world? It would be an enormous amount of complexity. We are seeing the world changing in front of our eyes, one API at a time. Looking back today, it's difficult to imagine a world without digital cameras. And tomorrow, looking back, it will be hard to think of a world without APIs. To build the API world, we must have an API vision. An API vision that can carry us through the old world to this new interconnected world. An API vision is typically made of 4 main components that each one of us has to build in our own organizations to succeed. First, we must have a strategy in place to incentivize the creation and the collaboration when it comes to building and consuming APIs. Developers are the heroes of this new world, and we have to make them superheroes. Finally, after they create their APIs, there must be an API management solution in place that allows us to connect all the different applications together, internally and at the edge. And when these applications are microservices, we need to have a service mesh in place that allows us to connect all the services that make up the final application, all of them together reliably and securely. But an API vision would not be complete without an overarching control plane that allows us to manage all of these APIs and microservices from one single pane of glass. A control plane that allows us to manage all the APIs, all the configuration, and allows us to have essentially visibility across all the teams, across all that they're building and all they are doing. This is the API vision. And at Kong, we are building this API vision by leveraging our underlying core components, Insomnia, for API design and testing, Kong Gateway for API management, and Kong Mesh for service mesh. We are leveraging them all together in the API platform that's called Konnect. Konnect allows us to manage the complexity that our teams are building from one single pane of glass. That gives us more visibility, and therefore, it does reduce complexity over time because it gives us a chance to improve what everyone is doing in the organization. Konnect finally extends the control plane with added capabilities for managing the hub of all the services that we're building, the analytics, the portal, and more. If we are an organization deploying an API platform like this one, across every team, across every application, it is important that we reduce the complexity of running these type of platforms. For example, let's start by looking at the complexity of running and deploying a distributed cloud infrastructure. Today, chances are you are working in an organization that's using the cloud to power your use cases in your applications. And chances are, if you are a large organization, you may be even using more than one cloud. To reduce complexity for our API platform, we first have to reduce the complexity of running the platform. And then we also have to reduce the complexity of building and creating APIs. So let's start with the first example. Let's start by looking at how we can reduce complexity when it comes to running a globally distributed infrastructure. There is an amount of costs and risks and complexity that is huge in running this type of infra. So let's reduce it. And to reduce it, we're going to be making a very quick example right here, right now, with you together. We're going to be looking at how much it would take to support a globally distributed API gateway infrastructure across two different regions, Americas and EMEA, for example. Now, if we want to run this type of infra 24/7 with no downtime, even before we talk about the technology itself, we have to look at the people requirements that's needed to run this type of infrastructure. And so for Americas and EMEA, we would have to have at least 3 SREs working in each region so we have the full 24/7 coverage. If there is downtime, we can recover from that downtime. But because we don't want to have a very large bus factor, we also want to double that capacity in case someone being sick can be replaced by someone else. So we're looking really at a total of 12 SREs across the board, including that redundancy. And if we assume an average salary for an SRE, we're looking at expenses that go between $2.4 and $3 million, and this is just the salaries alone. This doesn't include the expertise that we have to build across the clouds, across the providers that we're going to be using, and the overheads, and the technology cost, and the infrastructure cost of running this type of infrastructure. If we want to be successful, we have to reduce these costs, we have to reduce the risks, and we have to reduce complexity. We spoke about cost, but let's look at the risks. Whenever we use cloud services, chances are that we're using shared infrastructure. That means we are running on infrastructure that is being used by other organizations and other customers. This is fine because it creates a very nice user experience, but it can also increase the risks because we are sharing the same resources with other use cases and other folks that don't belong to us. So for example, if there is one organization that's receiving traffic, but then this traffic were to increase exponentially, well, now all of a sudden, we would suffer from noisy neighbor concerns, which means really that the underlying resources that are being used to provision this customer are going to be fully allocated to this one use case, and everybody else is going to be degraded. In an API world, having degraded performance means having poor user experience. We cannot allow this to happen. Therefore, the best way to run software in order to prevent these type of problems, it is to run them in a dedicated way. Typically, though, running it in a dedicated way introduces more complexity when it comes to using the software. So more reliability or more complexity, it's a little bit of a trade-off that we have to make. And then finally, when it comes to that complexity, whenever we run on cloud vendors, providers, and perhaps we use more than one, we fundamentally have to configure their native services differently each time. This creates fragmentations. This creates a security risk, an overhead that, quite frankly, we could avoid. Plus, as we hire people, those SREs we just spoke about, to support this type of infrastructure, each one of them has to build expertise in each cloud. The complexity is enormous. We are basically doing the same work over and over again across every cloud provider. And then we still need to build operations lifecycle on top of the software that we're shipping so we can support staging environments, production environments, configuring the software. There is a huge amount of complexity involved. Costs, risks, and complexity. It's quite a lot. So what if? What if I told you that there could be a way to reduce costs by more than an order of magnitude? What if I told you we could run on dedicated software, dedicated cloud, but still have the serverless experience that's easy to use and agile? And what if I told you that this could also run across every cloud and every region? I'm very happy to introduce today dedicated cloud gateways on Konnect, which achieve each one of these different tasks. With cloud gateways on Konnect, we are running the same Kong gateway we know and love, with all the plugins and all the capabilities in the cloud. Well, Kong runs it for you. It's a fully managed, hosted solution in such a way that you, as a user, just provision the cluster in one click and use the product. We have replicated a serverless experience on dedicated infrastructure, which is quite unique in the industry. So we have both the benefits of running on dedicated, while at the same time, we have the benefits of ease of use. We can choose the clouds and the regions where we want our infrastructure to run, and Kong will provision that infrastructure in a fully dedicated manner to the developers that are using the product. We can create as many as we want. We don't have to just use one. We can create as many clusters as we want on top of Konnect with the same ease of use. There are two different modes of operation for dedicated cloud gateways on Konnect. The first one is the autopilot mode. This is fire and forget. We choose the regions and the clouds where we want to run, and we tell how much number of requests we want to pre-warm the cluster with, so we don't experience any downtime on the first request, and that's it. The infrastructure will automatically and elastically scale in such a way that we can cater to pretty much any API workload with no downtime. We just use it. We don't have to worry about managing it. Or we can run on custom paths, which allows us to choose the size of instances and the number of instances that we want for each region and each cloud. This is not elastic, but gives us more predictability on the underlying infrastructure that we want to use. We can choose either one or the other. We have maximum freedom and flexibility when it comes to using this capability. Then we support private networking. With private networking and transit gateway, we can essentially run Konnect dedicated cloud gateways in a secure way as if they were running in your own account in your own cloud. It's a no-brainer. It makes that service available in the same underlying VPC as if you were running it, not Kong. Whenever we provision a distributed cloud infrastructure across multiple clouds, multiple regions, we can also get an edge global DNS that we can use to consume our APIs globally across the board. And this one DNS also allows us to perform performance routing in such a way that we can always target the closest region and the closest cloud to the consumer of that API, which may be your customer, for example, using a mobile application. And then finally, we can use dedicated cloud gateways alongside the already supported hybrid gateways, which means that we can choose if we want to run for specific teams and specific use cases in a fully cloud dedicated environment, or if we still want to have control on the data plane gateways. This capability is available today in Tech Preview. So let's invite Deepak Mohandas on stage. He's the senior staff SRE at Kong, who's going to show us a live presentation of dedicated cloud gateways and how easy it is to provision this type of infrastructure in one click. Welcome, Deepak.
Thanks, Marco. Welcome, everyone. Let's see Kong Cloud Gateways in action. First, let's log into Konnect. Once we are in, go to Gateway Manager. Now, this is where our customers can manage their control planes and the cloud data planes. Let's create a new control plane. We're going to name it API Summit Demo 2023. And we're picking the data plane type as Cloud Gateways. Proceed. Now, Konnect has created the control plane, and we have the data plane provisioning wizard. Here, we can pick the Kong Gateway version of our choice. We're going to pick the latest one. Now, we can choose the cluster configuration mode. Currently, there are two modes, Autopilot and the custom one. In Autopilot, we can simply provide the base request rate, and Konnect will automatically pick the instance type and the number of instances in the requested region. Whenever there is a spike in traffic happens, Konnect will automatically scale up the infrastructure to meet the demand. In custom mode, our customers can choose the instance type as well as the number of nodes in different regions. Let's pick the smallest one because it's a demo. And now we can choose the cloud provider and the regions. Currently, in Cloud Gateway, we support AWS in North America, EMEA, and APAC regions. In the coming weeks, we'll be supporting Azure and Google Cloud. Let's provision a multi-geo cluster now. So we're going to pick US West 2 and US East 2 for like North America, and then for EMEA, EU Central, EU West, and finally for APAC, AP Northeast 1 and AP Southeast 1. And we can also configure the number of nodes. Now we can see that by default, Konnect has automatically picked the default network stack in the respective region, except US West 2. There are no network stack available in this region, but we can easily provision from here. We can provide a meaningful name. So we're naming its default network, AWS US West 2. We can choose the availability zone of our choice. We're going to give a CIDR name, say 20/16. Now, as soon as I click Save, Konnect will automatically start provisioning my network stack. It's being automatically selected. Now, we can choose what type of API gateway we are trying to provision. Is it a public internet facing or private one? So in this demo, it will be a public one. Let's create. So now, Konnect will start provisioning all of them. Typically, it takes around like 15 to 20 minutes to provision a new network stack and a couple of minutes for the data planes to be provisioned in the respective network stacks. Now, to save time, we have pre-configured another control plane with active data planes. Let's go there. Now we can see the top level domain name that the Konnect has already provisioned here. And this is the URL that we can access and hit the data planes. From customer side, they can create a CNAME record for all of their custom domains and points to this domain and start sending traffic. Now, if you go to data planes, you can see all the live data planes here. Let's sort by region. You can see that in Tokyo, we have 3 of them. In Singapore, there is 2. In Frankfurt, there is 3. Ireland, 2. And Ohio, there is like 3. All of them are connected and constantly in sync with the Konnect control planes. Now, if we go to certificates, we can see the default certificate that Konnect has automatically provisioned. This is for the top level domain that we just showed you. Now, for custom domains that our customer provides, Konnect will automatically provision the certificates, and all of these certificates will also be available here to view. We'll look at the SNI. We can see the different SNIs for the certificate that our system has provisioned. The tag shows like it's Konnect managed, just to classify. It's fully managed by Konnect. Now let's test this gateway in action. First, let's copy the URL. We can hit it. It should be 404 because there's no route exists. You can also check here, no gateway service. Let's hit a random URL also. API Summit 2023 404. Now let's try to configure this service. Let's go here, create, calling it demo service. And we have a mockbin URL that we can use to proxy. Going to use here, save it. Now we can add the route. Let's copy the path so we can use this path and test it. I'm going to call the summit route. It'll be /. Now save it. Take a few seconds. Let's try to refresh it. Okay. Now Cloud Gateway is successfully proxying all the requests to the mock-in specifically for this path. Back to Marco.
Thank you, Deepak. What a compelling demonstration. Look, I never thought that we could make one of the easiest products, Kong Gateway, even easier. I believe that dedicated cloud gateways will become the #1 deployment method of Kong Gateway. We are really trying to make it as easy as possible for you to run it pretty much everywhere you need. And easy, being easy, ease of use, that really is the keyword that we are looking at. The transition from analog to digital cameras also happened because cameras that are digital are easier to use. Press one button, take a photo, and that's it. Being easy to use improves and increases the market that's adopting the product. Turns out when things are easy, people use more of it. Think of Uber. One click, get a cab, more people use it. The market gets bigger. This is true not only for Uber or cameras or Kong, this is also true for your own product. And what if we could make API creation as easy as taking a photo? What if by doing that, we could incentivize more APIs and better APIs from developers and everyone involved? One day, AI will be the developer consuming and producing APIs. As a matter of fact, today, APIs are at the backbone of AI. AI leverages APIs to gather information and process that information. But one day, they will become also the developers that are consuming these APIs. AI will take over, essentially. And at Kong, we are building this AI future with your help by integrating AI into our products. But that's one day. Today, the majority of APIs are still being created and consumed by developers. Developers are the heroes of our API world because they are the ones building it. So what if we could make that API creation as easy as taking a picture? What if we could reduce that complexity even when it comes to this lifecycle? The API creation lifecycle really is made of 4 different steps. First, we have a creation step, where developers create an open API spec for their APIs that others can consume. But then they have to go and test the APIs to make sure that whatever they've built is always working, is always reliable. When APIs is down, our applications are down. And so we need to make sure that our APIs are always up and running. And then we have to essentially share our APIs with the consumers. Building APIs doesn't happen in a silo. It's a collaborative experience. There are consumers and producers involved. And so we need to collaborate with them to make sure that what we are building caters to their use case. But it doesn't stop here. After we have created, tested, and collaborated with our API creation lifecycle, we also need to integrate it with our underlying infrastructure. And we have to do that by leveraging automation like GitOps or API Ops, which essentially allow us to create a pipeline that goes from API creation, testing, collaboration, all the way to staging and production. At Kong today, we do have a product that helps with that. It is Kong Insomnia. It's a very popular application tool that allows us to improve API productivity when it comes to this lifecycle and building this lifecycle from scratch. And today, I am excited to announce the next major release of Insomnia, Kong Insomnia 8.0, available GA today. With Insomnia 8.0, we're really looking at the result of 12 months of hard work that we've done to build significant amount of improvements and features inside of the product. Think of it as an entirely new foundation for Kong Insomnia. There are, like I said, hundreds of improvements, but there are a few of them that I really would like to focus on. First, we have introduced AI inside of Insomnia. As a developer myself, I know how hard it is to create an API and test an API. As a matter of fact, you are very well aware, it takes as much time to test an API as the time it takes to create an API. If we could accelerate the testing phase of our APIs, we would improve API productivity and developer productivity dramatically in our organizations. And so with this new AI capability inside of Insomnia, we can upload an open API spec, and based on that, automatically create tests for that API. In such a way, we can save up to 50% of developer time in creating tests, and at the same time, we create more reliable APIs. It's the best of both worlds. There is not such a thing as too many tests. Then we have introduced a new way to operate and collaborate on top of Insomnia. We have completely rethought how the whole collaboration experience works on top of the product. We can easily share our specs, our collections, our tests with others, and we can also see in real time who's working on what straight inside of the application. It's an entirely redesigned real-time collaboration experience. And then we built one of the most requested features from you, our enterprise customers. We have built organization support with enterprise SSO that connects with either SAML or OpenID Konnect identity providers. This allows us to very easily create organizations, secure those organizations and the data that we create in the organizations, and then easily invite our coworkers or employees to collaborate with us on our API resources. Remember, Insomnia is a fully end-to-end encrypted, which means that the data that you're creating, which arguably is the most important data of your organization, the API assets, the keys, the credentials, nobody can look into them other than you and the coworkers you're collaborating with. But really, like I said, we built a lot more. We've introduced support for server-side events, which in addition to REST, HTTP, WebSocket, GraphQL, and gRPC allows us to cater 99.9% of the API use cases out there. With server-side events, so we can build more realistic and real-time experiences for our applications. But it is really a lot that's packed into this release, so please go ahead and try it right away because I'm dying to hear your feedback. But before we do that, let's invite on stage Mark Kim, Senior Software Engineer of Insomnia, who has also helped build this new release of Insomnia to show us how it looks like. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Mark Minseok Kim. I'm here to walk you through Insomnia 8.0. The first thing of all, today we're announcing Scratchpad, where you can send API requests and start being more productive immediately without having to create an account. All you need to do is to click this Use Scratchpad button and start playing around with it. Click the plus button here to create HTTP requests, event stream, GraphQL, gRPC, WebSocket, you name it. You can even copy paste from curl script. For now, let's create GET request. So put your URL in the URL bar and click send button. Boom. You can see the status code, you can see prettified JSON response, and you can see headers, cookies, timeline. You can do the exact same thing with GraphQL, WebSocket, gRPC, and event stream. For this keynote demo, we're going to focus on event stream, which we're announcing the support of it as of now. Put your URL as well and click connect button. You can see that you are subscribing to events sent from the server. Now let's put some search filter with ID, for example. You can clear the search filter. You can clear the log. You can see the headers, cookies, timeline, and you can click disconnect. For other kinds of requests and more details, please come and join us in Insomnia 8.0 breakout session. Let's say you've created these requests and now you want to share them with your teammates. All you need to do is to log in and create a project and share them with your teammates. So we're going to click login button. Now in this new login page, we have social login and password list with email and enterprise SSO option, which we'll talk about in a bit. But for now, we're going to click continue with email. We're going to be redirected to the web. Now put your email address. Click continue. You receive verification code. And once you put that in, you'll be redirected to Insomnia, where I use the pre-populated data right now for demo. We're going to navigate back to organization page, and you can see organizations and pending invites. You're going to click accept, and now you've accepted an invite from Dinopark. We're going to see how many team members are there. Now we're going to navigate back to Insomnia. You can see on the left side, Dinopark is popped up. Now we're going to navigate to it, and here, you can see 3 team members are looking at the project together. How cool is that? We're going to pull Dinopark document and navigate to specs page. Here I can see OpenAPI specs shared by my teammates. I can go through this. And I can also click auto-generate test, which will generate test based on this API spec by AI. And I'll need to select base environment. And now navigate to test page. Here you can see all the code generated for test. We're going to run the test. Everything runs smooth. Awesome. Now we're going to navigate to collection page. And now here you can see generated request collections. We're going to make snapshot, put some snapshot message, and create push. Boom. Now everything you created here is shared with your teammates. For enterprise customer, we also have enterprise SSO connection available. So here you can see Kuma Inc. organization created. Now we're going to go inside, and you can see their enterprise SSO option. We're going to click it, and you can see pre-configure Okta SAML here, and we're going to navigate to members page and invite a new team member, minkim@konghq.com. Here we're putting passphrase for end-to-end encryption, and now we've successfully invited a team member. Now we're going to sign out and sign in with enterprise SSO. Click continue with SSO, put konghq.com, and now you're redirected to Okta, where you can sign in with your credentials, and now you're back to Insomnia, where you can see the pending request. Thank you. Everything I've demonstrated today, you can do it by yourself by downloading Insomnia for free and get started today. Thank you very much. Here's back to Marco.
Thank you, Mark. That was really a lot in 5 minutes. When others are making it more difficult and expensive to create APIs the proper way, we are making it easier and more cost-effective. Between now and the end of the year, we will give a 25% discount on every enterprise subscription on Insomnia. We're making it very easy for you to make the right choice. Today we've seen how we can reduce complexity in running a globally distributed API infrastructure with dedicated cloud gateways in Konnect, and how we can make it easier and as close as possible to one click to create APIs and test them with Insomnia. You can get started with cloud gateways and Insomnia today, right away, by either contacting our Kong team for dedicated cloud gateways, or going ahead and downloading and running Insomnia at insomnia.rest. Reducing complexity when running APIs is the underlying theme of every technology transformation. And at Kong, this is our passion, to make your job easier when it comes to building this type of infrastructure. The ultimate goal is allowing you to build your products and your business, which in turn happens to be the future of our API world. Thank you.